Updating the support plans. That is the next step. Once we completed the core plans, we need now to look at if there are going to be any changes needed on the support plans. And that's the teams, stakeholders, information, risks, and contracts. We look at the team development plan, and usually the updates that are part of that include any changes that we see that are needed in terms of some of those areas that are having some challenges and difficulties. And maybe we need to either change some of those targets or add more training activities. We also identify new development areas that during the monitoring phase we identify that are needed by the project, and we set up the baseline and we set up a target. We also look at part of that development plan is any additional training that is needed, either hard skills or soft skills, development areas. And we also make sure that we include enough time for team motivation activities. That means the recognition, appreciation, and empowerment of the team. We also look at the RACI matrix. We know if there are going to be any changes on the scope, there are going to be also changes to the RACI matrix. One of those changes also can include the changes in the roles that each one of the members have on the different activities. And that's common. It happens as we start shuffling some of the teams, move them around, and maybe finding somebody who has more skills to do that, a specific activity, or people who are changing roles in the project. We also identify new activities that are incorporated and making sure that they are the right roles assigned to that activity. We also update the stakeholder management plan. What we look here is that changes usually happen because of the levels of influence and interest on each stakeholder. So as we make progress on the project, we know that we have more information about the stakeholders. And when we see those changes, we need to capture and we need to update our plan. And we can see those changes here. And those changes, once we identify them, they have an impact on what category we are going to be classifying our stakeholders. And that is important because we are going to be, based on those changes, we're going to be also changing the type of strategies we're going to use to manage the relationship with those stakeholders. So we'll make sure that we are updated that information and now it is correct. And also, it's very common that we also add stakeholders. And each stakeholder also will have to have its corresponding assessment in terms of the influence and interest, so we can have the right category for that new stakeholder and we can have the right strategies to manage that relationship. We also look at updates in our information management plan. We look at how the information on the process went, and we know that we got feedback from the different stakeholders and usually changes either on frequency or changes in the format. We also look at new stakeholders that are added to that information management plan, and we make sure that we capture all the information that is needed so we can satisfy the needs of information of those stakeholders. The risk management plan usually has also many updates. Most of them come from the status, where we are on the status of that risk. So we need to update our plan so we know that we're tracking. In many cases, we know some of those risks are going to be closed, meaning that we completed the actions and they were successful in either avoiding the risk or reducing the impact of the risk to the project. But again, we identify new risks to the project. We make sure that we identify the right risk levels, we got the right responses, and that we have somebody responsible for making all the actions that are needed to respond to that risk. Then the last one, our procurement management plan also needs an update. And this is one where we also update the status to see all those procurement items that we purchased and the actual expenses that were on those items. That gives us a total idea of how much money we spent, how much money we budgeted for that. And we also track any new items. Now make sure that we got the process identify, maybe that we don't have any budget, but if we got any balance, maybe we got the authorization to include that, and we make sure that those costs are not higher than what we have here with the due date and the status progress. Again, updating the management plans means that now we have information that is up to date, so that can help us in our next cycle.